Hi everyone, good evening. I hope every one of you are staying safe. Welcome to the masterclass number 3. Before we begin our masterclass, I would like you to tell about the initiative called Practical City. Practical Cities is an initiative for all urban enthusiasts who wants to know more about their city, how it functions, and know more about their practical and on-ground projects, which makes their city more livable and more sustainable. This time, the theme is urban governance. In the previous class, we learned about how Bhuj is practicing decentralized urban governance and taking participatory planning initiatives. In the newspaper, we all see different various news about how central government is funding project, how municipal corporation is trying to get the revenues, but in the all, we don't know in the depth. So to understand this subject in more depth, we have Dr. Ravikant Joshi with us. Dr. Ravikant Joshi is a former chief accountant of Vadodara Municipal Corporation. He possesses more than 35 years of experience. He has worked with various government and non-government organizations like ADB, Urban Management Center, CRISIL, and he is also teaching with SEP University and more than that. I welcome you, sir, to the platform.
Thank you.
So, sir, to begin with the beginning, can you please explain what is municipal finance and what are the recent reforms in municipal finance?
Okay. So let me share my presentation. Along with that, I will be talking. That is okay?
Yes, sir.
See, municipal finance means what municipal bodies do, correct? In financial terms. So if we look at it as an academic discipline, then it deals with all the urban local bodies. Municipal finance as a subject is a systematic analytical study of economic behavior of the local government. Because me and everybody, it has multiple social wants to cater. It has limited resources, the resources which are having alternative use, and the general well-being of the public at large. It essentially involves three kind of main decisions, which we all do. Governments are not different because rules of finance are unique. Every organization, whether it is government, non-governmental, private, corporate, and individual, we have to follow them. So we, in our life, like us, to think in three decision terms. First is the investment decision. How much to invest, how much is the cost, and where to invest. That's become very important. Competing ends, whether to invest in water supply, whether to invest in sewerage or the roads. Then there is a financing decision. From where to bring that money. Money has a cost, correct? So government has to think that from where to bring that money. And finally, dividend. Now, somebody may say that's the dividend when it is a government. Government is not a company declaring the share dividend. No, here dividend means when you do a good financial management, you carry out the development, is the appropriate kind of resources. What really results is surplus with the municipal body or with the government. And at that time, government can decision means it can lower the rates of the tax, which even Government of India has done many a time. Very recently, even 2 days before GST has. So dividend can be given in a form of reducing the tax rate, or government may decide not to reduce, but to improve further, to improve infrastructure, its quality, its delivery, correct? So these three decisions apply to the municipal body also. So municipal finance will deal with how municipal bodies are raising the resources, from where the money they bring in, how they do the expenditure. That becomes most important because capital and OPEX has to be done. And at the same time, you have to ensure that it is cost efficient, right? Third is from where to raise the debt, because government has to bring this early as possible. So it can't wait creating the savings, saving the money, creating the surplus, and then going for the development. Because development has also positive in financial terms. So governments borrow, government go for public debt, and finally the financial administration. Then as we move in modern context, if we look at the local government, we have to equate it as an economic unit, a firm, or like our household, because it's driven by the objectives. Every local government or every government has certain objectives to achieve, say people welfare, developing the infrastructure, and all such. It has to do a rational behavior because it's an economic unit. Then economizing it has to do because resources are scarce. And finally, it needs to borrow and spend to achieve objectives. Because if government won't earn, from where the money will come? Then it will have to tax more to the people. So in existence, the difference between household or corporate or private sector and the local government is that it exists for the people, for the welfare of the people. Therefore, it has additional things to observe. That is, it has to take care of the transparency. It has to be transparent. There should be a competition, that is the contestability. And government has to pursue, along with the efficiency, object of the equity, the fruits of the welfare or the fruits of the development. All people, even including the poorest of poor, must get benefited by that. In fact, government exists to reduce the inequality, which may get generated because of access to the resources different for different people. So this is what is in nutshell municipal finance. If we look at theoretically or what it looks at as academic practice, also what one need to do. This is a typical typology everybody knows, but I'm placing it in graphical. See, there are conventional resources, which means municipal own resources, own tax resources, say property tax. Or there are non-tax resources. It can rent out the things, it can sell the things, it can earn the everything under the sky, which is other than the tax, would be a non-tax revenue. Also, it has a capital assets. Some places it has a land, some places it has. All those things are one-time revenue of capital nature. Beside that, it gets government loans, transfers, devolution from the Central Finance Commission, or there may be a compensatory grant for various aspects. So that is conventional. And what we are nowadays talking is non-conventional. In means bodies can go for commercial loans, bank loans, financial institutions loans. It can adopt the pricing mechanism. User charge is there, but pricing mechanism, the way but riding is that it has to be in the public welfare and in keeping the public interest in the mind. Then there are examples where municipal bodies are accessing the market bonds. They started in India since 1997, 98, and then they are continuing. Even last year also, some of the municipal bodies have raised municipal bonds, that is getting the credit rating and raising the funds. Equity also is possible. Not very much examples, but Municipal Act allow. You can create a company, track the equity. If your performance is good, if your project is good, financials are good, then people will invest in your company also. They do invest in Government of India in government companies. Similarly, they can invest in local government companies. Then public-private partnership, land as a resource can be utilized very strategically. And finally, there is a big area of social capital, that is through community participation. It is also known as a P4, that is public-private people part, wherein you partner with the NGOs, civil societies, individuals, all other people, and in that partnership you achieve certain, or even you get indirectly resources funded for your development work. So that was about municipal finance as a discipline. In practice, what it is, correct, and what it covers. Now, municipal finance has certain external and internal factors. See, not sovereign government. they are subnational government. They do not have like a government of India, national government, sovereign powers. Correct? So it has factors like degree of decentralization, and therefore local bodies and their financial structure differ from country to country, because in that country what kind of a decentralization is there is the functional domain and fiscal domain. For example, in US, even police is with the municipal bodies. Urban local bodies manage the police. We don't have that. So functions differ. Accordingly, financial sources differ. See, in many parts of the world, there is even local income tax allowed, or even there is a local expenditure tax. We do not have that kind of. Point is that these are external factors. Then what kind of powers are given to the municipal bodies? Then what is the system of fund flow or intergovernmental which grant is given? In our place, urban local bodies get state finance commission grants, central finance commission grants, and other grants also from the central government and the state government. Various example is the Smart City Mission, Amrut is there, Prime Minister Awas Yojana is there, Swachh Bharat Mission, all these different missions, funds to the local bodies. And then powers granted means how much kind of work they can do, what amount, up to what amount they can do those things. Now, these external factors on which municipal body doesn't have any control. It has to live within that framework, correct? And the internal factors on which certainly municipal bodies have control. And today I'm going to talk about those internal factors. What we are going to talk is a practical solutions could be about those internal factors or things which are very much in the hands of the municipal bodies, through which they can raise the finances and improve their financial positions. What are they? How to optimize revenue from whatever resources they have got. See, there is no point claiming that we do not have resources and then sit hand on hand and then not to do anything. No, whatever you have got, issue is whether you are optimizing it or not. Second, optimizing expenditure efficiency, value for money we call. And it should be a objective of a local government, particularly municipal government, because it is constrained by many factors, limited resources. So the real horizon or the real frontier for municipal bodies is to work on a cost efficiency or expenditure efficiency. We should bring maximum benefit. Like you and me, in our individual cases, we get maximum, dil mange more jaisa, that every maximum to us, correct? For that, we will do the research, we go to the 10 places, we don't immediately go and purchase anything. We do research and because saved is rupee generated. Because at individual level also we have limitations. We just can't go and earn million rupees, correct? Same is the case with the local bodies. So practical solution is most important. And finally, if you want to succeed, then you have to have internal good financial discipline, transparency, and accountability. Now, there are certain constraining external factors. When we look at, I have listed those external factors. What is in India? Inadequate local resources, and in theoretically also, the local taxes are inferior nature. So municipal bodies have resources which have less buoyancy. And municipal bodies have only one tax source, that is property tax. Right? Then there is an absence of autonomy. It depends country to country, I said. So there is nothing wrong about every country has its own way of granting the powers to the local government. Giving them autonomy and powers also depend on the maturity of the local government, correct? The way we don't give big amount in a hands of child, but as that child grows up, become mature, he is given more powers and more autonomy, correct? It is like that. And we have municipal bodies which range from very big one like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, at even a municipal body of only 10,000 population or 15,000 population, very small one, correct? Then there are inadequate devolutions happening But India is a developing country. So again, at a national level and other level, we have to take into account the resource constraint. But compared to the what doing, our local bodies are having less money. And therefore, the result of last 20 years finances shows that at a national level, if we take all the municipal bodies into together, then total municipal universe is only 1% of the GDP. And it has remained stagnant, correct? Our GDP economy is growing. So in absolute term, money is growing, size is growing. But in percentage term, it's just 1%. Then total urban infrastructure, including the metro and transport, around 0.6 to 7% of the GDP are getting spent. And actually on basic services like water, drainage, road, only 0.4% spent, particularly in last 10 years. Also shrinking space, because what has happened over the years, earlier they abolished the octroi, now GST has come, so some of the like entertainment tax and all, they got subsumed for better. But the corollary result is that municipal body share is shrinking. So of course that share is shrinking because in last 15 years, central government and state governments are giving more and more money to the local bodies. But at the same time, local bodies lost many of the resources with the change in the time, and it's a very natural process. There is no qualitative comment on that. It's not looking into that. So its space is shrinking, its share is shrinking, and now municipal bodies across all India, all the municipal bodies taken together, contributing only 0.40% of the revenue. And 60% come from government, state government, and other resources. But let's move. Our focus is not this constraining factor, but what are the internal factors and how our municipal bodies are doing. So external factors are not in our municipal bodies. So it need to address and it need to concentrate on internal factors. Things will change as the country will grow, as it will get developed. More, who knows, in future more autonomy will come, more powers will be given. But at the moment, what municipal bodies practically do is to get on their internal resources. But the picture is different. For last 25 years, I am seeing, and I have written, and many other experts have written, commissions have written, that not augmenting their own resources. Earlier, I said, what is most important is what you have and how much you are optimizing. Are you using your property? That's the question. Yes, you have only one property tax. That's right. Then ULBs are not credit worthy because naturally they are in loss. They are financing, and therefore they are not in position. Only 35 ULBs out of 500 whose credit rating was done have A grade. So they can, and another 100 have B grade. So it's all 125 or 130 ULBs which can access the market, because unless until you have good credit rate, access the market. Similarly, there is a paradox. We definitely have 30, 35 ULBs which have A grade credit rating, correct? Having good finances, they are managing their finances relatively better, but they are not leveraging. They are funding their development almost 100% plus. Now, from 100%, you can't bring development fast. Our cities are growing, our urbanization is growing. So what you need is to leverage the money. Of course, while leveraging, you recklessly borrow or leverage, you should leverage in such a way that financial prudential norms don't harm and your credit rating don't go out or go. But that is possible. That is possible with certain number of the ULBs, and because they are not borrowing, they are not leveraging, they are not setting a target or lighthouse for other ULBs to follow. See, when a top ranker boys or girl are not scoring 70 and above, if they are standing at 60%, 35% or 40% child won't have hope. He won't aspire to get 70% or 80%, because those who have capacity, they are not saying. And then there is a inability of the ULBs because of the capacity building, lack of staff, professionalism is not there. Whatever money governments are giving, as I said, in last 15 years, devolution has increased from central government and state government, but unfortunately, municipal bodies do not have capacity to use. And as a result, what has happened? There is a poor administration in all respect of tax and other powers, about which I am going to talk. The non-augmentation of non-tax resources. Yes, resources are limited, but non-tax resources, sky is the limit. You have to be innovative, you have to be productive, but that is also very rare example. Inefficient management is there, wasteful expenditure is there, because budgets are weak, budgetary systems are weak, then rudimentary and weak financial administration and budget making as a professional capabilities. Now, to overcome this is the today's topic. What could be then practical solution for managing city finances? So this graph shows that what need to be done. So there could be three practical solutions. One is a resource mobilization related. Second is expenditure management related. And third is accessing market, harnessing PPP, social capital funds, and etc. Now, earlier I showed you one typology, but the real typology one should look is that if we take a municipal finance, importance should be given to the expenditure management. We have a problem on resource mobilization side, that is internal own revenue, tax, non-tax. At the same time, municipal bodies are not accessing the equity, not accessing the debt, not much of the PPPs, social capital is not harnessed. Even CSR funds, some places are coming, but not that regularly. And on expenditure management, what we lack is the cost efficiency, product sources, and the systems like performance and outcome budgeting, prioritizing principles, cost and technical audits. Let's come to the property tax. It is the most important tax in the hands of local bodies. And the main issue is not whether you have a rental value or area-based method, or you should go for the capital value. Across, with some exceptions, with all the ULBs, the problem, everybody who is liable to pay property tax is not in the register or is not under the tax net. And second problem is that very low collection efficiency. On an average, only 50 to 60%. I'm not saying for everybody, there are certain exceptions. For example, Gujarat municipal bodies, Ahmedabad, Surat, or some of the Maharashtra and other municipal, Pune, Bombay and all, they almost have 97, 98% property tax net. And therefore they have such a large money. But when we take an entire Indian picture, on an average 50-60% taxpayers are in the tax, and then recovery efficiency again very low, 40 to 50%. In fact, Government of India in service level benchmark in under JNURM had given target that there should average an 85% recovery. If that happens, in fact, without increasing the rate, property tax income or revenue, or in some cases it can go 4 times without increasing any single naya paisa tax. In fact, many a time ULB will say, if I ask, no, we are going for GIS mapping and all that. Yes, it's a fantastic technology, but you don't require mirror for the bank on your wrist. You can yourself see by your eyes. See, property is visible, it's immovable. How that property cannot be under register? It is only because not in the register, because the people who are working are not made accountable for that. And I'm talking from that, I have must seen more than 100 ULBs where this problem I have seen. The staff which is working, means it's just inconceivable, accepting that 40% are not in the tax net, because You can hide any other tax, but in property tax, property is there, visible, it is concrete, and it can't go anywhere. What you simply require, GIS technology is fine, but what you simply require is to stand in front of each and every property and get it in the register. In fact, if a movement is taken in 90 days or 100 days, and that has been done some by municipal bodies, where I was also involved, you can map each and every property register and get that person assessed and get tax from him. And then why collection efficiency is less? Because the entire administration show that that is involved in procedural things than the recovery. Simple thing, bills cannot be sent online or through because the addresses are not correct in the database. So we have taken technology. In fact, many municipal bodies are using computer technology for last 20 years. Or for producing the property tax through electronic medium, correct? But because the property address are not correct, then municipal employees are required to go and serve that the tax, because as per act, tax bill has to be served. Some states have adopted system like income tax, which is again a great way, and even Government of India has given advisory that local bodies should adopt self-assessment system, but it is in the hand of state government. But what you can do is to rationalize the process. Also, I experimented with the ABC technology of materials, which says that usually quality products should be monitored, and they are always few, but they are high quality. And in fact, that technology, if you do the analysis of property tax payers and the property tax, hardly 5% of the properties constitute 60% of the revenue. So a particular city may have 1 lakh taxpayer, but it is the 5,000 or 10,000 maximum tax. If you concentrate on that, your 70% recovery can come. So these are the certain management technique principles. For example, our electricity bill nowadays, or before that our mobile bill, and all by internet and everything. Government has amended the act, but for that you need email ID of the person, so that even electronically that bill can be sent. Even notices. So most of the place which I have found is that the people who should be doing actually recovery activity are involved in procedure thing, means preparing the bills, sending it, then giving them the notice if payment is not made. So the practical solution is a ERP, enterprise resource planning, and I have worked with the property tax reforms with the cities. Nothing great has been done, only streamlining. Today, entire tax calendar or sometime issue after the 180 days. So you lose 180 days. But there are certain municipal corporations, say for Baroda, Ahmedabad, Pune, before 30 actually bill reach to the people. Naturally, then recovery machinery gets more time. So these are the practical solution. Streamline your tax calendar or your calendar. Streamline your all the administrative processes. Do away with useless processes. Harness the technology. We have a paradox. Municipal bodies are taking IT help, but with a rudimentary kind of procedures and structure. You need to revamp. You need to do away with all such things. So many things can be done. And if really any municipal corporation decide, then it has enough number of the people, entire army can be sent into the city, and each and every, many places I find the only alibi is given that our GIS is happening. In fact, many places just they go on postponing that happening. Once the GIS happens, we will be able to increase the property tax. No, property tax even, and I have seen the examples where even there is a GIS technology, property tax revenue hasn't improved. Correct. Very recently, last 2 years, Telangana government has done mapping GIS of all 72 municipal bodies found more than and increase its property tax by 40 crore rupees. But basically they did what they did, that each got enumerated, each and every development or changes in the property got enumerated, and then they revised that assessment. To property tax, linking it with the various licenses. See, there is a Shop and Establishment Act license, then there is a food license to be given, fire license given, fire safety. All these licenses are based on property. But in many of the municipal corporation, what we find are working in silos. Means fire brigade will give the fire license. Again, they will visit the property and they will serve separately that bill. Then government would issue the license, food license to the hotels or shop and establishment. In fact, the way Aadhaar card has taken individual as a base and everything is on that, all the benefits and social welfare and even our income tax and our bank linkages and everything. Similarly, property should be taken a base. And what property, whether there is an advertisement board, whether there is a hotel, whether there is a hospital, whether there is a nursing home, whether there is a shop or any hazardous kind of a nature activity, industry, everything should be based on that property, and a unified bill or unified database is a solution, which we then get the people, because the people who are working on food and food license, shop and establishment, they can be dovetailed over here. So the staff problem can be sorted out. Also going big way online payment. For example, look at Pune. Almost more than 47% people pay online. Now it has a big advantage. Because people pay online, you require less cashiers. You require less office space. So the cost comes down and it becomes more effective. There can be mistakes while accounting for the receipt. You don't have to maintain those many computers, those many processes, those many people. So, mean that the municipal bodies are going for online, but are not pushing that, are not integrating it with the, in fact, there are many municipal corporation, immediately tax is bill issued, you get a SMS, you get a mail, you get a reminder. So these are the new ways. Same with the user charge, same problem. People are using water connection, but are not paying user charge because they are not in the register. Even if they have taken illegal connection, they should be, because when you keep them illegal, they go on using the water, but they don't pay you. So there is no sense in it. So you rationalize it. Same thing with the all user charges also should be, first thing to be, each and every person who is using service must be made to pay. Means you are 100% or more than 90%. And that is possible. It's not difficult. How can anybody claim that we don't have 40% of the people on our register? They are illegal connections or they are ghost connection. Similarly, collection efficiency. Same, whatever I discussed about property tax is applicable for the user charge management. In fact, my study showed that if only each and every person is cutting down the non-revenue water, and if you improve the collection efficiency, 50 to 60% water supply systems will come in profit, surplus. They may not recover capital cost. In fact, in water also, you don't require to increase the rate. What you require to increase is through practical solution, management. You need to improve your efficiency and your management of that user charge. And if you reduce the technical loss is 30%. Water simply you are bringing from the source, but it goes into the ground because your systems are leaking. You are not water supply. You are not measuring it with the flow meters and all that. So whatever additional money you will get by efficiency, use it for improving your infrastructure, and there will be reduction in the technical loss. When you reduce the technical loss, it is means water become available to you. You don't have to then bring additional water, or you can supply more water to the more people. And as you, that technical loss will go down, more revenue will come. Next is ULB charges various kind of fees. Now they need to be revamped. In fact, some of them which are not producing or which are not yield should be stopped. Means there is no harm. If the cost of collecting that fee is more, then it makes a sense not to take that fee. People will feel happy. But many fees continue, and they continue into very rudimentary nature. Sometimes only fee is 10 rupees and the cost of collecting that 10 rupees is 10 rupees. So actually, so you need to analyze, you need to see, remove such kind of thing or increase the fees, correct? Then you need to improve entire revenue administration. I discussed, use judiciously technology. Just riding on the technology is just riding on a horse without you knowing it how to ride the horse. Then that horse will wrong direction or will throw you off from his back. And somewhere that appreciation of using technology in a correct manner is missing, and that is required. Then another area of entire thing is raising the loans. I already discussed that the ULBs which are capable are not raising the funds naturally. That much less development they are bringing to the city. There is no harm in leveraging, so long as by borrowing the money, if you do a certain kind of a productive infrastructure or important social infrastructure which does the cost saving. For example, by once you construct the roads and you construct the flyover bridges and then you reduce the traffic congestion and all that, there is a direct and indirect saving in the cost of the transport. So don't shy away from raising the funds. Whoever is capable, it doesn't mean that you just go and borrow enormously. You whatever your financial position permits, but that leveraging need to happen. Fast tracking of the development will create a goodwill among the citizens, and as you create the goodwill, people will be inclined to pay you. Means there will be willingness to pay. Today, why people resist paying the money to service? One reason is that there is a dissatisfaction of the service. As a consumer, when you have a dissatisfaction, you naturally would not like to pay increase in the rates. But if your quality of the service is high, which you improve by leveraging money, correct? You improve the quality of the infrastructure, service delivery, then there will be willingness to pay and people may even accept increase in the rates. In PPP, what is happening? We are not giving first chance to the PPP. There is an old mindset. There is an inertia. Also, there is a lack of capacity. As a result, what happened? If in the first natural tendency is to go for EPC, engineering, procurement, and that kind of a construction contract, EPC, the normal way of it. See, what will happen if you give first chance to the PPP? Private player may not come. Then you can go for EPC. But when you for the PPP, those things can't happen. So entire mindset has to change with the PPP. Yes, there are many constraining factors at the local level, but at the same time, there are experts, transaction experts are available in India who can handhold, who can do the handholding of you through a successful PPP. But main issue is a first mindset. Of course, there is no law which says that you should first go for the PPP. We take a safer side. It may be possible that person may not come, PPP may not happen. You can go for EPC. See, some people when they say that, but PPP player may not bring the money. I said, perfectly fine. PPP is not something where he has to bring the money. PPP means he brings his technology, service delivery. And with that, suppose today you are supplying water at say 6 rupees kiloliter, and with the PPP do it at 4 rupees, it's a win-win situation. You may not be able to achieve that cost efficiency with your technology, with your employees and all. So every rupee saved. So PPP should be viewed from that point of angle, from two angles, not from the funds, how much funds private player would bring. From the angle where cost efficiency, reduction in the cost, not at the not compromising the quality or the quantity. Recent amendments, CSR has been done. Government of India has some 3 years back. It now makes mandatory for those industry. Earlier, what was happening maybe in one city, but it may be doing CSR activities somewhere other corner of the India where their interest is. But now they have come that whatever is the total, X amount of it must be spent in the local area. And some of the municipal services like water supply, and then your sewage, health, all these has been included in the CSR. So local bodies, in fact, like any private company, there is a market, correct? There should be this source department, means alternative source department. A dedicated team should be continuously working how to raise the money from these non-conventional sites. But that kind of a attitude or that kind of a structure we don't find in the municipal body, that kind of appreciation. Just go each and every corporate which is around in that city, and they would also love to contribute. It is a question why they are not approaching. I would say that why you are not approaching. You go with the menu that these are the 100 projects in which you can participate. We need to construct schools. Would you construct school? We want to start health units. Health unit you can do, or we want more ambulances. We want certain parks to be developed. There are many urban common things which can be given to the corporate. Again, here, you may not actually get money in your hand, but you will save resources for the important things, and these things will get developed and people will get benefited. So there should be a very focused, someone responsible and 365 days approaching and raising the resources. The way NGOs, civil societies would go to the donors, there is no shame, because ultimately whatever you will be doing would be benefiting the city, public welfare at large. Similarly, government or local government should proactively go forward to the civil society which is in the city. Many miracles can happen with the support of this. At COVID times, it is not only government, it is so many plethora of the voluntary agencies, they are contributing. Swachh Bharat Mission, very good example. One of the silver lining of the Swachh Bharat Mission is that somehow government managed to convert it into a mass public movement. So even private sectors and schools started. So everybody started contributing in a Swachhata movement. So such a great example should be used for all other things. Whether it is simply, I remember when I was in Baroda Municipal Corporation, and we got one resolution passed and some of it helped. We simply said that small grounds or small neighborhood level garden plots which are there in TP, we simply said that the societies can come together, or a society can come together. Only two conditions: that there will be a free entry to public and there will not be any superstructure created inside. They can adopt the garden and maintain. But we see some examples, some traffic island somebody has taken, or one or two side patches. No entire urban forestry, parks and garden. But for that, you need to a very systematic way. On one side, you work out the list, what you can offer, on what terms and condition you offer. So you have to have a shelf up or project that these are the things which I will be giving to the corporate, I will be taking help of the social this. So this outreach department should be there, continuously outreaching to the social civics societies, and seeing that okay, I have 100 neighborhood level small garden. Corporation will take years to develop. As a municipal body, I should go to that locality, meet the people, citizens, and see that okay, you want, this is lying, it is getting dirty, it may get encroached. Let's work together. There is a Bhagidari scheme where this RWS, Resident Welfare Organization in Delhi, manage the gardens which are inside in their campus or in those big societies. Then the level management scheme for sanitation or composting at your doorstep or in your house only. So that was a successful example in Mumbai, where big housing complexes manages their garbage. So it's a zero garbage concept. So garbage doesn't go away out. So you don't have to transport the garbage, where it is composted at the generation point itself. It saves the money. It leads to the participation. People feel, and the added advantage, saving and infrastructure getting developed and people getting benefit of it. You create a connect with the people. People feel belongingness. So the non-financial effect. And finally, I would say ULB should go for commercial ventures wherever possible. Earn money and use it for the urban service. Let me give you a simple example. If you will look at the water supply, in fact, say Pune, every day delivers 1,000. The cost ranges from 5 paisa to 15 paisa per liter. And you and me and every purchase 1 liter bottle at 15 rupees. Now the water which is supplied by a municipal body at the moment cost, which is potable, which is good, we all that, it ranges from 5 to 10 paisa or 15 paisa. 15 paisa per liter. So 15 rupees for 1,000 liters. But the cost sometimes is more than that. This is the price which they get. Cost is sometimes 10 paisa to 20 paisa per liter. You add another 30, 40, I did the calculation, and a mineral water bottle cost comes less than 1 rupee per liter. Even if cities sell it, today they are selling 1 liter at a 15 paisa. If they supply bulk water at 3 rupees, and if you must have seen, railway had started Railway Neer. On railway platform at 1 rupee, you could get that water bottle. So those actually produce water less than 1 rupee. Across the India, water industry is a $1 billion industry. As for example, Mumbai Municipal Corporation manages 3,500 MLD water every day. So if you will take top 50 or 60, none of the private companies managing that much water every day. Their plants are something small, but no municipal body. In fact, municipal bodies set up such kind of a plant and comes out at a 5 rupees mineral water bottle and create a IC, create a brand image. No other water company will be able to sell a single liter water bottle in that city. And it will be some 100 times more profit in on that money legitimately, and use that money for improving the water supply system. See, if government, then from where the money will come? So they must go for the commercial ventures, whatever is possible. I remember in my childhood, Baroda Municipal Corporation at the time of Diwali used to sell greetings and used to make profit. It used to print beautiful greetings of the beautiful product, and it used to sell. Somebody will say that Of course, at that time it was a small municipality, but it mattered. And what more matters is that a commercial venture. But whenever you do the commercial venture, you have to be very, you have to do it in a commercial way. So next, expenditure management. And for that, I have already covered that. So basically what I'm saying in that, even whole world is going for expenditure, because that is the new frontier for the governments. It is very difficult to generate one more rupee, but it is more easy to save a rupee. And rupee saved is a rupee generated. India has set up Expenditure Management Commission. Entire new discipline has come up that is called public financial management, which all the governments are now pursuing, because you just can't go on taxing the people. What you really require is to improve, and where we differ with the corporate is the corporate, every decision is a cost conscious. Of course, that is for profit. Here we should be cost conscious as a government to provide better service, more money to use it for the social welfare. So we should be saving the money not by reducing the quality or by quantity, but for so expenditure management should be the frontier, and huge money can be achieved. And one of the main tool is the budget. Unfortunately, budgetary systems are very weak in municipal bodies. Not in Government of India. Government of India budget section management is so good. Even at state levels, the states which are doing good, one of the reasons for their success is good budgetary management. So there is an urgent need of the expenditure management. And for that, what should be done, I have given on the slide. I won't go in detail, but basically what we need to do, see, municipal bodies are not sovereign body. It can't print the money. It can't raise the money. So its expenditure should be contingent on the resource mobilization. So expenditure independent function. So on one side you go on spending and then money will come or may not come and you will have deficit. No. There should be a very, very strict financial control, and all the expenditure must be contingent on resource mobilization. Once that will happen, there will be pressure on the resource mobilization team in the money. You can't have a system, but most of the municipal bodies, the problem is that when the budget is approved, expenditure is allowed to go as it is, because it provides the authorization. Basically, in government, budget is a legal document. So it authorizes that expenditure, but nobody then bothers whether the revenue has come or not. Need to do, then you need to adopt a long-term budgeting. At the moment, budget is prepared only for 1 year. In fact, budget should be prepared for even 5 days, 15 days. How you plan. So that is called financial planning and budgeting, and at the same time, long-term budget, so that you know that whatever decisions I am doing in this year, suppose you start a big flyover in this year budget, its half cost goes into the next year budget. So actually next year, 50% you have already consumed or created a liability for next year budget. So budget 1 year plus technique is utilized. I don't have much time, but in another episodes, will go in detail also if people feel interested, correct? Because each and everything would require a time to discuss, but there are many, many practical things done to manage and control the expenditure. I am again emphasizing not to control the essential expenditure, but to control expenditure, which you and we all do in our personal life, in our family, at household level, in private sector, in corporate sector. Now that principle to the local government, and especially local government, because local government do not have sovereign powers. They just simply can't print the money to do it, or just can't go and borrow the money. So to sum up, what I'm saying, that municipal finance first need to adhere core principle of finance explained. Its investment decision has to be correct. You need to, kitna deti hai? Why that question? How much it will cost? That is a valid question for each and every activity. Is there another way by which I can reduce the cost? Unless until you question the cost, unless until you find out alternatives to the cost, reducing the cost, you simply can't. We also don't do just simply go to the shop and he says that this is the cost and we purchase it. No. Secondly, it need to exist for public interest. It's not corporate sector. So profit is not a motive, but surplus must be achieved, because unless until you can't carry out welfare activities, you can't increase the development. So it doesn't mean that you should not earn profit means you should be in deficit. Correct? Maximizing of the aggregate public interest, then equitable distribution of the returns, that is wealth is the final objective for finance. And last slide I will say there are 5 rules I am giving, practical rules. First rule is municipal finance or municipalities need to be conscious. That ad is beautiful, which says kitna deti hai. He asked whether that NASA rocket is going. I am least concerned. I am concerned with how much it will cost. Is there another way, not compromising quality, but achieving same objective at a lower cost? Remove all cost, correct? Control the cost. Then second rule is wherever possible, tax and charge to recover the cost. Because if you don't recover cost, then there will be deficit. But you have to do it in a minimum possible rate. And that will become possible low. Then you will have to charge less to the people. Then property tax is the most important tax. At the moment, let me tell you, the studies have that Indian municipal bodies are recovering only 1/3 potential of their property tax. So if they really carry out the reforms which I talked or which I said and take the help of the experts, then they will be able to triplicate their revenue without substantial or without without increase in the rates. The inefficiency which need to go. Then services also suffer from same kind of a thing. Administrative inefficiencies, irrational pricing, some cases, earn. Wherever possible, earn. And by taking commercial activity, adopt product differentiation. See, market, what market does, it gives you product differentiation. So if people want air-conditioned buses and ready to pay for it, go for running air conditioning. Go for such kind of a stratified, differentiated supply of the service. The way I said water, people want RO water, RO plant, give them RO quality water at a higher cost. Give them the mineral water in the bottle. Give them the bulk mineral water. Of the product differentiation. And wherever possible, don't shy away from earning. So long as you are putting that earning to social welfare, people welfare, there is no harm in earning. Fourth rule, converge. There is a private sector, CSR fund, PPP, P4, that is social capital. Volunteer, go to them. See, ultimately, you need to connect because resources are limited. And improve the supply of the infrastructure service. And fifth rule is that leverage to maximize financial capacity. Don't sit on your capacity. Correct? It's not something because you sit on your financial capacity will increase. No. In fact, if you don't grow, stagnancy is a decline. So use your capacity. Do not do it recklessly. With following the prudential financial norms, use it and then bring the money, bring the development, create the goodwill, quality, and then legitimately go and ask the people that give me more money because I'm delivering you. I think these are the certain practical thing. Next again meet, we can again discuss some more practical things.
Okay.
So you have any other questions?
Yes, so I'll just ask one question. Thank you so much,
Or
sir.
whatever I said, you can ask the questions if any point is not clear or anything.
No, no, so it's very much clear. Thank you so much, sir, for converting this subject so easily. Now, on the same subject, I would like you to ask one question. What are the challenges faced for replicating good practices, as you mentioned above, in any another city, and what should we keep in mind before replicating those practical solutions?
One is a replicability also requires a understanding what calibration you need to do. In that, most important is the willingness of that city, and again the people in that city, the bureaucrats and the political leaders and everybody in the system to. So sometimes I'm seeing that very successful example at some place is not getting replicated. So there is nothing wrong with that experiment.
Yes.
Get it. Somewhere breaking that inertia, again a attitude. Everybody think that I will try to reinvent the wheel. There is no need. In fact, I have seen that people going for the similar kind of software. No, we want to build our own software. IT platform has created where some other municipality has successfully used it. Take it, just change it little bit, whatever calibration you require. But then another tender, we want to develop similar. I saw that particularly in accounting software.
Yeah.
Now, accounting software is something universally same. Correct? So there can be a little bit modification state to state and city to city, some requirement. And therefore, when we carried out accounting reforms in 179 municipal bodies of one single software.
Yeah.
Again is that, again, I will request all those who are listening or the young people who will be joining this field, understand it, internalize it, and adopt it in your city.
Yes. So
Another city
perfect.
may get credit, that another city may get credit that, but you can innovate over it, but you don't try to reinvent the wheel again.
Yeah, so perfect solution, and I guess all youngsters will learn a much more from this. And also, this lecture has opened up eyes for ULB also, how they can manage their
So
finance and what are some, best and fantastic ways to improve their economy. And so, to sum up, I have just one question. Looking at this COVID era, what do you think as citizen we can help? How can we help ULB to improve their financial, this thing?
see, there will be a downturn. I personally feel that 20 to 30% that will less money they will get. Actually, directly it won't, because property tax, but because people have lost money or they are short of funds, there may be more delinquency in paying the property tax, because property tax is not going to, but people may find it paying it hard. So the first thing municipal body should do is that they should come out with and say that you can pay it in installment.
Yes.
Your total property tax 1,000 rupees and you are finding, just give me 100 rupees per month. In a year, that person will be able to pay. So what is more required is a communication saying that we are flexible, we are accepting in whatever form you are. Water charge and all that, you can see that people are resisting of the charge bills and all that, because electricity has increased consumption, everybody in the house. So there will be downturn, but we will surely, similarly, expenses in other aspect have gone down. Even government of India has said that the new projects which has not been started, they have put them, because what is most important, whatever projects are going on, they need to be completed.
Right.
Because if they get, So even municipal bodies can do that. Whatever new projects they had proposed, if they will happen after 6 months, 1 year, it's a very unprecedented situation. So in order to overcome the financial crunch, which was planned when the 2021 budget was prepared, do not go for that. Whatever projects are there, prioritize that. The projects which immediately, so you rationalize your funds on expenditure side. On revenue side, there will be some issue as far as the so be practical, help people so that they can pay in an installment. And most important, the point I said, converge.
Yes.
That COVID has shown that we all have to come together. It's an unprecedented, once in a lifetime kind of a calamity or externality, pandemic. So it has given us a lesson that we need to help each other, network each other. So converge the resources, avoid all the avoidable expenses, because some more expenses required on the health front. All the municipal, of course, central government and state government grants also to mitigate this cost. But you rationalize whatever you had planned. You can postpone certain projects, get the projects which are on the vision, get them completed so their benefits start coming in. The project which were less than 50%, if they can wait, don't spend on that also. So such measures can be taken to overcome COVID induced financial strain.
Yes, so perfect. And so thank you so much for lighting up torch to a finance subject. We all think finance is very complicated, but you have made it very easy for all of us. I guess each one of us will
Sure.
understand this in more depth. Thank you so
Sure.
much, sir, for joining us. And thank you each and everyone for listening to us, for joining us here to the lecture series, our masterclass number 3. To join our initiative, I would like you to click on the link below and get more updates to our initiative. I would like you to follow our Facebook page, LinkedIn, Instagram, and stay updated. You can write us by email if you have any query or suggestions. We are always there. Stay happy, stay healthy. Thank you.
So thank you to entire practical cities team, to you for conducting a lively interview and giving me this opportunity, and also those who will be listening to it. I know I haven't covered all the points. Some of you may simple things I am talking, but really sometimes simple things, practical thing work. What we require, as these people have taken title, we need practical approach in city management activity. So thank you all. Thank you who will be listening to me, and I really thank you. And stay safe, take care. And government, local government, central government, in this crisis time, everybody should contribute for overcoming this COVID situation. Thank you.